Hi there, everybody. This is Wendy Hernandez, and welcome back for another episode of the Family Law Insider podcast. I am excited to have our guest with us today, and she's a return guest. She was one of my very first guests that I had, and it's about time to bring her back. It's been about a year. So Nancy Hetrick is a Phoenix area certified divorce financial analyst, and today she's going to talk to us about 50 Shades of Grey, but not the type of gray that probably most of you want to hear about. We're going to talk about gray during divorce. So Nancy, welcome, and thank you for joining me today.
You're so welcome. I'm happy to be back. I'm real passionate about this area too because it's so important for people. So great to be here.
So what is a gray divorce exactly? Because I've never heard that until I was just talking to you a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's actually a new term, I think more than anything coined by the media. And it's mostly because of a study that came out recently. There was a study done that showed that in the last 20 years, the divorce rate for people 50 years old and older has doubled, even though the overall divorce rate has actually gone down. So all of a sudden, everybody's talking about this phenomenon, and everybody's writing about gray divorce, and that's kind of why, as it came from that study.
So I did not read the study, but did the study talk at all about why there has been an increase in people who are in their, I guess, golden years getting divorced?
The study doesn't, but of course, tons of people have jumped on board in their theories of why, and a lot of things actually really make sense. One of the main reasons that especially the researchers kind of assume is that this is a trend largely because of extended lifespans. People are living longer, and people are living better quality of life after age 50. So where you might not have left your spouse before, now you're looking at, gosh, I could be alive another 30 years, and I feel good. I want to be the best I can be. So they think that's a big part of it. The other probably, I think this is one of the biggest factors, is the growing financial independence of women. Women have choices that they didn't have before because they had their own career. They had their own 401k plans. And so they feel more financially able to make change over age 50. And I think that's probably one of the biggest factors.
Okay. So, and I haven't done a lot of research. I haven't done any research into this, but, I'm just thinking back to, like, my mom and my mom's mom and my dad's mom. And, for those women, they stayed at home and they took care of the children and the home. And starting with me and my generation, things have kind of changed. Like, at least I went to school and have a career, and I'm so grateful for my mom for doing what she did. But I wonder for women who were in that position, and there's a lot of them who are still in that position, if they feel trapped to a certain extent. Because,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because, and in fact, my mom was one of them. My mom was a battered housewife for 40 years. And it was a couple things. Number one, had been a homemaker her whole life. She had no knowledge of what she might be entitled to if she did leave. She thought for sure that my father's pension was his pension. She didn't know she'd get half of it. And a lot of this, if we think about no-fault divorce, has only been around since the late 70s, early 80s. So this is a whole new era of personal freedoms, and especially for women. So even if there are enough assets where they feel like they would have enough money, if they've never done it on their own, they've never managed the finances. I have clients that will come to me and they haven't written a check in 30 years.
Yeah.
They don't even know how much things cost, and so it's just too overwhelming to even consider. So as we get more and more women into the working world, more and more women being independently financially competent and financially literate, I think those are all contributors to that later in life divorces that maybe wouldn't have happened 20 years ago.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that. And, you mentioned something interesting about how a lot of the women don't realize or don't understand what it is that they're entitled to.
Right.
And, and I've handled, maybe 10 divorces where the people were in their golden years, or they were over 50 and either retired or close to retirement. And what was interesting to me was where certain people, like the women, didn't know what they were entitled to. Oftentimes, the men thought why do I have to give her half of my pension? I was the one who was out there all, busting my butt, and it's mine. Do you come across that at all in terms of
I have a case right now that I'm working on. And, pensions are such a rare thing these days. Really, it's government employees are almost always the ones that still have them. And, yeah, there's some kind of emotional attachment to a pension that they don't. And so what I do? I constantly am reminding clients that think of it as a 401k that's worth this much money today, because they don't see it that way. They see it as money that the government continues to pay them later. So they see it as a stream. They see it as a paycheck that keeps coming. But that's not really what it is. A pension is just a 401k dressed up differently.
Yeah.
So if I value it and let them know, okay, this is what it would be worth today. You'd have this much money in 401k. It helps them shift that thinking a little bit.
Yeah.
But it is big time a challenge. It is a big challenge.
Yeah. So Nancy, I'm going to stop you just for a minute, and we'll edit this out. But I'm getting a lot of feedback from your computer. Are your speakers? I feel like the sound's coming out of your speakers. Can you on your computer, on your laptop?
Let me try something.
Okay.
I wonder if.
Whoa. Okay.
Is that better, worse? Same?
Yeah, let me see. That is a little better. It got worse for a second. It got all this static, but that sounds better.
You know what? There's a volume control on this. Let me see if I turn it. Hang on. I'm going to turn this one way down. Let's see. Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Is it a better sound or any different?
I feel like, is there sound coming out of your laptop by any chance? Can you go to the settings on your laptop? No, there isn't. That's weird. Okay, I'm getting feedback from somewhere, but I don't know where. It's not horrendous. It could be better, but that's okay.
Let me try this. See, you can't hear me now, though, can you?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
You heard me talking just then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let me try. I'm going to mute. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes. I can hear you.
Oh, you can? But I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Okay, unmute it. Unmute it.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't hear, but you could still hear me.
I could still hear you. So go to your settings. Do you know how to go to settings on your computer, your laptop?
Mm-hmm.
Go to settings and then go to audio.
Well, no, but see, that's what I have the sound settings just from the taskbar.
Yeah.
And if I mute the laptop sound, then that's where I can't hear you.
So if you go to your settings, there should be a way to do the input and output through your headphones.
Gotcha. Okay. Sound. Okay, I've got the mixer up, and I've got a thing for my speakers, a thing for the system, and a thing for Google Hangouts.
So what does it say for speakers?
The speakers are at the same level as the Hangouts. Let me try. Oh, but they all move together at the same time. I can't separate them. Oh, wait, I see here. I can. No, if I mute one, it mutes them all.
Okay.
Let me try if I pull the system sounds down. There. Is that sound any better if I just bring the volume level down?
Yeah, that sounds a little better.
Okay, I think probably that. Oh, now it's letting me move them separately. So let me try. Can you still hear me now?
I can. That sounded a little better.
Okay, let me try something else. How about that? Is that any better?
That's a little better.
Okay,
Yep.
that's good.
Oh,
We'll go
okay.
back.
We'll give that a try. Okay, we're back. Hi there. I see somebody's watching. So, um, okay, so we were talking about how you help people make a shift in thinking, typically women, about pensions and how the pension is a part of an asset that they have an interest in by thinking about it as something that they could get now as opposed to something in
Right,
the future. Yes.
right. And I
Okay.
talk them through the process of, okay, let's think about this. We have 401ks over here, we have pensions over here, both of which could be used for income when you're retired. And you know your pension, right? You know exactly what income it's going to throw off. So what I do is I then do all the calculations to figure out how much money would you have to have invested today to generate the stream of income that it'll provide you at age 65. And I run it out through their entire lifespan, back it back down. You would have this much money in your 401k today. And that seems to help them get their minds around what's really going on.
Okay. So is that one of, I know that you wanted to talk to us about the common issues that come up in divorce over 50. So is that one of them that was on your list? Or?
Actually, no.
Okay.
It's not.
All right.
Because the issues that are especially unique in gray divorce is you don't have time to recover. Okay. The assets that you have, you planned a certain retirement together. And now you have to, those same assets have to support two separate retirements.
Yes.
And unfortunately, both parties still have in their minds the vision of retirement that they had created together. And so helping them understand that they have to let go of that vision is dead. And so for instance, I had a couple that was 20 years different in age. One was fully retired. The other was going to have 10 more years to be employed. And so the one that was already retired, well, she couldn't go back to work, and he still had 10 years of earning potential to help make up for the division of assets at the divorce. And she didn't have that.
Yeah.
Getting him to understand that was really difficult. It was really, really challenging. But so the assets are limited, the recovery time is limited. What's probably the most challenging is a couple in their early to mid 50s where the woman or the man has been a homemaker.
Yeah.
And most of the laws in most of the states now really are not favorable for long-term spousal maintenance. So you have a woman at 55 who's got to figure out how to earn a living.
Yes.
And that's so intimidating and so frightening to women in that position. And so I really try to work with them and help them come up with a plan, help them see a financial plan into the future and do their budgets properly so that they know, what do I need to do? How much work do I need to do? What do I need to earn to be able to live out the rest of my life in some level of, that's as close as possible to the lifestyle that I envision.
Yes. So there are ways then that people can do this. I mean, do you agree with that?
Ways that they can be successful at it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, in other words, do you feel like somebody needs to feel trapped in a relationship if they're over 50 and they're truly unhappy, but they know that funds are going to be limited?
Yeah, no, that's of course not. No, I mean, I have a definite theory in life that everyone deserves to be happy. Yeah. And okay, I'm going to say something really controversial now. I have another little thing that I say because I've learned in my life it's true. If you're constantly saying, man, my marriage is really hard work, you're probably married to the wrong person.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. It doesn't have to be that hard.
Right.
And a lot of people will argue that fact, but that's just my own experience. It doesn't have to be that hard.
And you've been through a divorce, right, Nancy?
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, I've been through a divorce and realized, at the time it was absolutely not what I expected. I got caught. I got broadsided, and I didn't want it. When I said for better or worse, I actually meant it. And so it kind of, I felt like divorce happened to me. It was not something that I initiated. And it took me about a year and a half to 2 years before I realized it was the biggest blessing of my life.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I think is universally true too is if you're not happy in your marriage, I guarantee you your spouse isn't either.
Right.
Because there's no way that that equation works. They might be content, but they're not truly happy if you're not. So, just things to keep in mind. I believe absolutely in personal responsibility, and absolutely anything's possible. All you got to do is set your mind to it. And,
That's
tons of 50-year-olds at college and going back to school for new careers. So, it can be done.
Okay, cool. So that was a little tangent, but I think it was very valuable and very important. And I will say, I've been on both sides of it in terms of helping, a client, a woman, who wanted to get out of divorce and she or to get out of a marriage, and she had been the homemaker, but she took the plunge, and I've also been on the side of the other spouse who doesn't necessarily want the divorce and is totally blindsided, being forced into it, and it is difficult, but I have seen people on both sides of it move on and really live happy lives once they get past the shock and the disappointment. So
absolutely.
Whoever you are.
One of the other big issues for gray divorce that I'm finding a lot is healthcare benefits.
Okay.
Understanding your existing medical benefits. And again, there are a lot of people out there who have worked for large corporations or the government that are going to have additional medical benefits provided during retirement. And that is considered a marital asset. And some plans will let you assign benefits to an ex-spouse. And that's a huge deal to understand.
Wow.
Yeah, and so for instance, I had a couple that I worked with who the man had retired from ExxonMobil. Well, ExxonMobil provides benefits for life on the healthcare side. The wife had a major health condition, and so that had to be something that was really seriously looked at. What was Medicare going to provide, and what was this woman going to be responsible for out of pocket? And ultimately, we came up with a great agreement. They actually ended up only doing a legal separation until she was Medicare qualified so that she could stay on his health plan. And I've seen a lot of couples do that.
Yeah, that's an excellent solution. So, and when you say in that particular instance that Exxon provided health care for life, was that for the spouse who was employed by Exxon, or was it for both the spouse and the ex? I just want to make sure I understand.
It would provide for both of them if they were married.
Got it.
Not if they're divorced.
Yes. All right. All right. I wanted to make that clear because, I have not come across a plan yet, except for the military, if people meet certain prerequisites, but I haven't come across a health plan where an ex-spouse is covered. And in fact, I think that you could really get in trouble if you get divorced, but you continue to cover an ex-spouse under your...
Oh, yeah. You could get in big trouble.
Yeah.
Well, but the thing is we got to, as divorce professionals, we have to make sure that the spouse who's going to be the ex and not eligible understands that and what that looks like. Now, here's the other thing, Wendy, I'm curious. When I'm working with clients and doing the financial analysis, that health care benefit package is a marital asset that gets valued so that it is offset with other assets. Is that anything that you've ever done in your case?
That isn't, and that's brilliant. I mean, that's amazing, Nancy.
Yeah.
But it's a huge factor. I mean, from the asset standpoint, that's truly just new to me, and it's mind-blowing. But normally when I'm considering healthcare is in the context of, okay, I have a spouse who is going to have a hard time making it on his or her own, and part of the reason is because they're losing health insurance.
Right.
So what is going to be the cost to cover that person post-divorce?
Yep.
So that's really how I'm looking at it, but that's brilliant, Nancy.
Yeah. So that is something that I would say typically family law attorneys would overlook.
Yeah.
Is that is an asset to be valued. So that can be really important. Another big issue is estate planning. So, especially if you've had a long-term marriage, 20, 30 years, they have wills in place, they have trusts in place. And so a big issue for gray divorce is unwinding all of that and restructuring all of that.
Yep.
So making sure that we get these couples to a good estate planner to help get all that ironed out. Because often those couples too, they still want things in place for their children. So a lot of times you have to change the nature of the trusts and make them into bypass trusts and all kinds of things like that, which I'm not an expert in. But it is something that really has to be looked at.
And I would,
Go ahead.
I just want to interject real quick on that topic. And that I don't think I've shared this with you, Nancy, but I'll share it with you and with the world. Is that we're doing estate planning now. I mean, so we can handle.
Excellent.
We do trusts and we do wills and all the basic emergency legal documents, and that's huge. I mean, and I think it is a perfect complement to people who are going through a redefinition of the marriage and divorce. So it was just natural that we added that because it is so important.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so glad to know that. I will have more reasons to refer people to you.
Thanks, Nancy. Sorry to interrupt. So then you have another big issue in gray divorce.
Yes. So the next one, well, actually, there's a bunch more, but probably one that doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but can be really a problem, is just being eligible to get credit in your own name. If a woman has been a homemaker, not employed for quite some time, and she's only going to have assets supporting her and not income, it's going to be very tough for her to qualify for credit. And so that's something that they need to be aware of up front. And occasionally I'll even have, recommend to the woman to get a credit card in your name now while you're still married. And there are some things that you can do to kind of help that process along. Probably a bigger one that comes up and we see more often. Couples in their 50s or 60s are more likely to be business owners together. And splitting a family-owned business can be incredibly challenging and very difficult because both people might feel that they still want a role in that business, but they don't want the other person to have a role in that business. And that can be very, very challenging.
Yes, definitely. I mean, business valuations, I mean, whether you're under 50 or over 50 are usually not that easy. Yeah. So, if the parties have, they have a long-term family-owned business, I could see how that would be even more difficult.
Yeah, I try to I write often on, helping younger people protect themselves against these issues of gray divorce. So there's a few things that I always encourage them to do. Number one, and this is for both spouses, because I find that today men are almost more vulnerable to this than women. Usually one or the other spouse is handling finances. And as women have become more financially independent, I am talking to young people, more and more women are doing the bill paying, they're handling the household finances. And the men really don't have any idea what's going on. Sometimes it's always one or the other.
Right.
So one of the most important things is be aware of your finances during marriage. No matter who's taking care of the day-to-day, once a month, you both need to sit down, you need to go over all your accounts, where everything is, how are we doing towards our goals, and for heaven's sake, set some goals. And make sure that you're on track and that you both understand where you're at.
Yes.
Know what kind of retirement plans your husband has or your wife, so that in the event that something happens, you've got the information and you can start doing some projections and feel a little bit more control.
Yes, and and that from a divorce attorney perspective, that's going to save a lot of time and money. Because I can't tell you the number of people have come in here and they have no clue what the spouse has, what the life insurance policies are. Yep. So then we have to go on a fishing expedition that takes a long time and a lot of money.
Yeah.
So if people follow your advice, we can avoid that.
And this is not an issue anymore we sometimes used to call it the ignorant spouse, that 30-year homemaker who really didn't have much education and didn't know any better. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about laziness, busy lives, and one person handles it, and I don't really care, and she's got it under control, so I just let her handle it. You know what? Not okay. Yeah. Not okay. Everybody's got to have that. You've got to make sure you're on top of your financial game.
Totally. Yeah. Yes. So what else you have? Any other issues?
I would say the other way to prepare yourself and make sure that you come through a gray divorce successfully and I almost never see anybody do this, Wendy, and I'll bet you would concur with this. If there are any retirement plans that require division, other than a 401k, so pensions or government retirement plans, which are very, very interesting. The most interesting one I've ever seen is railroad engineers. The railroad retirement plan, crazy. Before you ever go into negotiations with your spouse, you must get the plan document so that you understand what your options are. Some plans will let you do a lump sum distribution. Some plans won't. Some plans will let you assign certain benefits to the ex-spouse. Some plans won't. Sometimes it's even with the railroad folks, it's a percentage. Only this portion of this retirement plan can go to your ex, this portion can't. And I see couples all the time because I also do post-divorce transition assistance. I see couples all the time, or not couples, individuals, they'll bring in their decree and it will say, okay, this account is to be divided via quadro this way, and the plan doesn't allow it.
Yeah.
And so now you're really stuck, and you got to go back to court to try to work all these things out. Yeah. So that's certainly where I think someone like myself, the financial advisors, could come in and really help out with that side of things.
Yeah, that's really excellent advice, Nancy. And I will say that, I handled a case where I didn't handle the divorce 15 years ago, but I handled the fallout from the divorce because a quadro was not done until 15 years later after one of the parties had spent it.
Oh my gosh.
And so anyways, it was a mess. But one of the things that the judge wanted to know is, well, what did the plan documents provide and what could have these people done at the time of divorce?
Right.
So I agree. That's totally important. Thank you.
Yeah, and it stuns me how many people have no idea what their retirement plans really say. Yeah. For some reason, psychologically, while we're working, we don't think of that as real money. Yeah. We don't think of it as real money. Same thing with 401ks. They're on autopilot. People don't rebalance their investments because it's not real to us. And folks, it's real. Yeah, it's real. It's real money. You need to be aware of it.
And this is, the people need to pay attention to this. And my advice would be also to make sure you get that quadro done at the same time or before the decree of dissolution is signed, because there's a huge amount of risk if you don't.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So for the person who's entitled to benefits but is not the employee, if that ex-spouse goes out and dies, well, you may not get anything. Even though,
and if you haven't made allowances for that and written in some rules, bad stuff, bad. What? So that's good, important stuff. One other thing that I would say too that is really, really common in gray divorce is the retirement date that you thought you were going to have ends up being a few years later. I see that a lot, where people that thought they were going to retire at 60 or even 65 figure out that they have to work longer. And, unfortunately, that's just the fallout. In order to make up for that difference in lifestyle, that's a pretty difficult thing to have to happen.
Okay, so it's just stuff for people to keep in mind if they're contemplating divorce after 50. Anything else, Nancy? I know we're close to time, but I want to make sure. You've given some great tips and advice for people. I don't want to miss anything if you have anything else on your list.
Let me look at my little list here. Make sure to rewrite your wills, which we kind of already talked about, the estate planning, please. This is kind of a big one, and I hadn't thought about this before, but decluttering and downsizing. Okay, just think about this. You got a 30-year marriage. They lived in the same house their whole life. You got all the kids' stuff. You got garages and sheds and all this lifetime of accumulation. It's almost like, it's almost like you have to have an estate sale, have a divorce sale. Right. There's a lot of stuff, and so that can be really, really challenging for great over age 50 folks to just sort through their lifetime of accumulation.
Yes.
And so that's another big issue for them, and there's probably a niche market there for somebody to come in and
that's good.
help them do that.
That's a really great idea. You know, and I did an interview with a guy named Joshua Becker. He's actually also here from Phoenix, but he's world renowned, and he's a minimalist, and he talks about decluttering and minimalism. And actually, you know, while it might be hard to get rid of certain things because they're sentimental or you're just attached to it, there's great freedom in letting
Yes.
go. You know, and
Yes.
what better time when you're starting a new life because you're getting divorced and you're transitioning and redefining, you know, to just kind of let go of some of that stuff. It really can lighten a load and open you up for fantastic things. That's what
Yeah.
I got from Joshua, and that's what I'm hearing from you too.
Yeah. No, definitely, definitely. And okay, so just to wrap up, then I'm going to tell you a pretty shocking story that is true. Was a case I dealt with. And this is back to the admonition of being aware of your finances and having those meetings with your spouse. Definitely a gray divorce, right around 60 years old. 10 years prior, the husband had sold his business. Business was no longer in operation, and he became a day trader, trading stocks online every day. They, at the time that his business was sold, they had assets around $2 million, and that was their retirement savings. For the next 10 years, he every day pulled up his computer, traded stocks, and when the wife would ask him, how'd you do today? How'd you do? Oh, it's ups and downs. And she'd say, well, really, seriously, how'd you do over the last year? Why don't you worry about it? Why are you asking me so many questions? So he would never discuss it with her. 10 years later, he has an affair, tells her they decide to divorce, and she then, unfortunately, finds out in my office that he has not made a single penny over the last 10 years. They have continued to live a fairly extravagant lifestyle during those 10 years. The $2 million that they had is now gone, and the only asset remaining is their home,
Wow.
which has equity. It has about, maybe 600,000 in equity. Wow.
Yeah.
That was a pretty shocking day for her.
Yeah.
And talk about a rude awakening and, a whole new lifestyle that now had to be explored. But that's, it sounds extreme, but it's really not. It can happen to anybody. So meet with your spouse. Make sure you know what's going on.
Cool. Excellent, Nancy. Thank you so much. It's been awesome. And just before we go, can you tell people how they can find you if they want more info, whether they're gray and going through a divorce or not? You're a great resource.
Yeah, if you or anyone you know is going through divorce, we call ourselves the best kept secret in divorce because our biggest challenge is educating the public that we exist. I'm a certified divorce financial analyst, and we really come in and support you, whether you're using mediators, whether you're filing your divorce on your own, or whether you're using attorneys. We can make sure.
Nancy, she froze up. Oh, Lord, she froze up. Okay. Oh, goodness. I'll close it out. Well, I will include, sorry about that, all of Nancy's information in the show notes and as well as her final pitch, but I will say that Nancy is one of the best kept secrets that I've used in my own cases. She's a certified divorce financial analyst, and check her out. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Family Law Insider podcast. Remember, we're on your side when it matters most, and I'll see you next time.